ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Namaste, my dear friends. I am giving this video on the book called Upadeshashram or Upadesha Undiyar. This is a very important spiritual and holy book of Maharshi Ramana. So, in the beginning of the video, some light is thrown on the early life of Sri Ramana Maharshi. Born in December 1879, the second son of Sundarayar, a pleader of Tiruchoji in the Ramanad district. He received his early education at Tiruchoji and Dindigul and then proceeded to Madurai, where he studied in Scots Middle School and the American Mission High School. His relatives and companions noticed nothing extraordinary about him except perhaps his occasional absent-mindedness during working hours. The subject of this abstraction was a mystery to his companions, as he did not disclose it to anyone at the time. This strange young man was proceeding, however, without any guidance from books or men, to introspect into his own personality and discover his nature. Who am I? What am I? Whence am I? Were the queries which, even as a boy, he had started, and he had obtained distinct realization that he was not the mere perishing body but something deep, subtle, and suffused with awareness and reality feeling. Alongside of this untaught mysticism and philosophy, he had a deep and simple devotion that centered round Arunachala, with that holy name which haunted his memory from childhood. He associated all ideas of God, omnipotence, omniscience, holiness, and kindness. He had lost his earthly father at an early age, and Arunachala was to him the Father in heaven. He did not know where Arunachala was till 1895, when a relative arriving at Madurai stated that he had just returned from Arunachala. From Arunachala, cried the startled young man, "Where is it?" The relative was surprised at his ignorance and remarked, "What? Do you not know Tiruvannamalai? That is Arunachala." With such leanings, it is no wonder that young Ramana, or Venkataraman, that was his real name, took little interest in most of his studies. Neglect of studies brought on impositions and reprimands from his elders, and these seem to have produced little effect. On 29th August 1896, he was writing an imposition from Ben's English grammar The work after some time disgusted him, and he bundled up then and the imposition paper, and tossing them across the room, sat up, closed his eyes, and dived within himself. The elder brother, who was in the same room, watched him in silence for a while, and then broke out with a rebuke intended to chasten the young spirit. What business has a fellow here who behaves like this? The rebuke struck home. True, thought young Ramana. Truly, I have no business here. I will leave home, relations, and everything here for good. Immediately, he resolved on going away to Tiruvannamalai, far from his old moorings, and remaining there totally unknown to his relations. He took 3 rupees out of the money given to him to pay his brother's school fees and took train northward, leaving a note at home which ran as follows: As I am going to seek my father by his command, and as the object is meritorious, no sorrow need be felt for this absent, and no money need be wasted in searching for this. The reference in the third person to his body, which others regarded as Venkataraman, to the father who commanded him to quit home and seek him, and the omission to sign the note, are significant of the stage of development he had already reached at 17. While he was in the train, he passed almost the whole of his time till he reached Periyapuranam, absorbed in his own thought and unattracted by his fellow passengers' chat or the variegated and picturesque scenery of nature, finding his funds insufficient for the entire journey. He alighted at Mamalapattu and walked the distance of 10 miles to Tiruvannamalai, where he placed the only ornaments he wore, a pair of gold earrings, and again took train for Tiruvannamalai. As soon as he reached that place, he proceeded straight to the temple of Arunachala, and there offered himself with these words: Father, by thy command have I come here before thee. Since then, up to his Mahanirvana on the 14th of April 1950, he remained without any break at Tiruvannamalai in the presence of his father for more than half a century. Here the hill itself is revered as Jyotirlingam, that is God in the form of light. Ramana spent the first 6 months in the temple precincts and then moved to a saint's tomb. A mango grew on the outskirts of the town and later still to various caves on the hill. He finally stayed at the foot of the hill near Palitirtha by the side of the tomb of his mother, who came and resided with him from 1916 till she passed away in 1922. The first few years of his life at Tiruvannamalai were characterized by mauna, silence, a remarkable vairagya, non-attachment, and an almost perpetual deep samadhi. His fame as an ascetic began to spread, and his relatives came to see him. They entreated him hard and bade him return home, but he was adamant and declined to leave Tiruvannamalai. He then began to get acquainted with many religious works in Tamil and Sanskrit, and as days progressed, obtained considerable mastery in them. He wrote a few original Tamil poems which are marked alike by literary grace, passionate devotion and philosophic insight, and he rendered some standard Sanskrit works into Tamil prose and verse. His replies to disciples are embodied in Ramana Gita, talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, day by day with Bhagwan, and letters from Sri Ramanashramam. His proficiency in other languages is evidenced by the fact that he rendered his own Upadesa Undiyar, the original Tamil version of the present work, into Sanskrit, Malayalam and Telugu version. The genesis of Upadesa Saram or Upadesa Undiyar. There is an old legend that a group of rishis once lived in the forest together, practicing rites by which they acquired supernatural powers. By the same means, they hoped to attain final liberation. In this, however, they were mistaken, for action can only result in action. Rites can produce powers, but not the peace of liberation, which is beyond rites and powers and all forms of action. Shiva determined to convince them of their error and therefore appeared before them as a wandering sadhu. Together with him came Vishnu in the form of a beautiful lady. 5 hymns to Arunachala, Upadesashram or Undiyar, and Ullathu, Narpathu and others. Sri Sankaraj Viveka Chudamani, Hastamalka Stotra, Dakshinamurti Stotra, Drikdrisha Viveka Atambodha, Vicharmani Mala, Atam Sakshatkara, Devika Lotara. See the collected works of Ramana Maharshi. All the rishis were smitten with love for this lady, and thereby their equilibrium was distributed and their rights and powers were adversely affected. Moreover, their wives, who were also living with them in the forest, all fell in love with the strange sadhu. Incensed at this, they conjured up an elephant and a tiger by magic rites and sent them against him. Shiva, however, slew them easily and took the elephant's skin for a robe and the tiger's for a wrap. The rishis then realized that they were up against one more powerful than themselves, and they bowed down to him for instruction. He then explained to them that it is not by action but by renunciation of action that one attains to liberation. The poet Muruganar was writing this legend in Tamil verses, but when he came to the instruction given to the rishis by Shiva, he asked Bhagwan, who was Shiva incarnate, to write it for him. Bhagwan accordingly wrote the instruction in 30 Tamil verses. He himself later translated these into Sanskrit, and the Sanskrit version was daily chanted before him together with the Vedas and continues to be chanted before his shrine. That is to say that it is treated as a scripture. He refers to the various paths to liberation, grading them in order of efficiency and excellence, and showing things the best. It is self-inquiry. Man wants happiness, and to attain it seeks and welcomes pleasures. These he gets by karma, that is, activity of one sort or another. Hence, to a superficial view, it may appear that activity one's own confers all pleasures and happiness on one and that there is no need to look to any other or higher power. This view was acted upon by some rishis, Mimamsakas of the Daruka forest, who trusted entirely to their sacrificial rights to obtain all that they wanted and failed to honor God in His highest embodiments. In consequence of such failure, their sacrifices suffered shipwreck and soon they had to recant their heresy. Even the slightest examination would serve to explode their theory. If they and their karma, action, did not owe their power of attaining and yielding fruit to any ulterior power, they must be the first cause, the prime mover, the great creator, God Himself. The rishis did not claim God had to themselves. Could it be ascribed to their action? Man's karma, being the product of his finite intelligence, is but a feeble and unintelligent instrument. Its force is like any other force, that is, that of a shell discharged from a cannon, which is marked by some power while it moves, and reveals its full potentiality when it strikes an object. Obeying therein well-established laws, but is incapable of reflection, choice, self-direction, self-development, and other features of personality, human or divine. Not karma, not the man that performed it, but the great creator who ordained the existence of man, his power to act, and the law or force compelling such action to produce its results is to be revered. It may be fancied, however, by some that karma with its immediate and remoter results can satisfy the human heart. But does it? Karma and the pleasures it yields have an end, a very quick, and they cannot provide the lasting bliss that God alone bestows. God is the goal or home to which humanity is drawn. Karma or activity as we find it in the world, that is desire-born activity, can never take us on to that goal. On the other hand, it takes one in the opposite direction. Its product, the short-lived pleasure followed by pain, far from wiping off desire through satisfaction, gives it a fresh lease of life, an increase of strength, and a deeper and firmer footing in the agent's personality. Acts and attitudes tends to become habits which seize the agent with an iron grip. Desire-born acts thus tend to perpetuate themselves not merely from day to day and year to year, but also from life to life, endlessly, as the unreaped balance of their fruit and the unexpended fund of desire. Sanskaras remaining at the time of death force one to take fresh birth. And the immediate result is the vasana, that is the recoil of the action back on the agent, leaving an impression on his nature, character and tendencies. Remoter result is the phala or fruit, consisting of pleasant rewards for good action and painful punishments for evil action. Such pleasure and pain generally take long periods to come and seldom come during the life in which the action occurs. Sometimes, though rarely, they follow close on the heels of action, that is where it is very highly virtuous or grossly wicked. So I end this video here and continue the holy book in other videos. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe my channel. Thank you my dear friends. Namaskar.